So before Formula D Long Beach for the second round, Larry Chen put together a Type S car meet. I don't know if you saw that. He put together a nice video right beforehand. What was really interesting about it is he kind of sat down and like made a plea to the car community, like, hey, you know, a lot of these spots have been having a lot of bad press lately, and I need you guys to kind of come out and show like what the community used to be like and what.
Yeah, we're not dirtbags.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that we're not what's portrayed necessarily on social media.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, you know, I remember like this golden era of the car meet, and we're a little bit timed apart by a couple of years, but not drastically enough. I think when I was coming up, we'd kind of look to your age group as the inspiration for how to.
I don't know that we were the inspiration.
I mean, you guys kind of set the example of like how to respect a spot and how not to get the cops, called on you and make poor decisions.
I think that honestly, that's for us. That was one of the biggest things. Like you just said, like our whole thing was about not getting the cops called on us, right? Like, I mean, like the truth of the matter is like we wanted to have these places. Most of the time we met in public, right? And you were using a shopping center, you were using, you know, somebody's parking lot, whatever it may be. So like you wanted to play as low key as possible so that you didn't have to get kicked out, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there was a lot of that stuff. And I also think the difference maybe between, you know, some of the stuff a long time ago and some of the stuff recently is that I think largely a lot of these guys were way more protective of it than not. I remember people coming in and where you get like the random person that showed up for the first time and you'd be doing dumb stuff and you'd have a few guys would walk over to them and be like, yo, get out of here, whatever it is. And like, I don't know that exists anymore. I also think like, you know, half these people that are going to these meets, you know, they're going maybe to, you know, put stuff on social media or do different things. You know, look, we treated meets, you know, it was the social media, right?
Yeah.
Like when we went to those meets, it was those were a lot of them were weekly meetups that we were doing every week, and it was because you see these dudes talk about car things, do whatever.
It was the country club of our day, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about country club, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely our place for interaction. You know, you looked forward to it. You definitely had a group of dudes that. You know, had your back, and it was like, you know, it was you know, that was your core group, right?
Yeah. No, I get that. You know, like that was a big part of it. Like I started out down in Virginia Beach going to car meets, and we had like our little spot, which was Freedom Wash, and it was great. You know, it was only a couple guys used to come out there, and then it got a little bit more popular. Word of mouth spread. We got a pretty good group together. It wasn't, you know, obviously these weren't, you know, anything fast or crazy, but it was a good group of guys, and the peace was relatively kept. But as years marched on, the spot got more and more popular, and the problem is that as it got more popular, you wouldn't have that same, I don't want to say gatekeeping, but you wouldn't have that same control over the spot anymore.
No, don't say anything.
And what ended up happening is it would get shut down. And then by the time I ended up moving out of Virginia and moving up to New York, that whole area got shut down. You weren't allowed to have car meets there anymore. The minute anyone parked up, there was, you know, Virginia Police Department was there.
Yeah,
so
and it still happened to us back then. It was like, you know, a lot of the stuff, look, there was difference between your weekly meetups and the ones that would be there. Like, let's say this in a hypothetical sense. Let's say hypothetically there was a lot of street racing going on. Mm-hmm. Hypothetically, after those street races or before those street races started, there would be these general places that would get like we're going to meet here, people are going to meet here.
Yeah.
And that crowd was always rougher than your steady meets, and those places it wasn't consistent, right?
Yeah.
You know, while a lot of those hypothetical street races happened in on same days, similar times, there was no one place that everybody would meet.
Okay.
Right? So like it would just kind of be one of those things. I mean, we're talking about the age of Nextels, right? So
where you at?
That's how people congregated so quickly, right?
Yep.
It was a word of mouth thing. You know, when they found out what time or whatever people were going to meet up for these hypothetical races that could have happened.
Yep.
Then what happened was, you know, you'd hear, you know, are you going this, doing that, you know, bleep, 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 right? And then all of a sudden, it would be like, yo, I think they're going over here. And next thing you know, you would go and there'd be a few hundred cars.
Yeah.
Right. So, and those spots are always rougher. And the truth is, a lot of those spots, you would be always, like, for me anyway, I would always be kind of close to my car. Like, the first sight of cops, it was just a good idea to slowly start making your way out of the lot.
Yeah.
Right? Because if anything, or if anybody's tried to, you know, like, I mean, look, think about it. Some of these dudes, like, you know, if you got to a certain point, they could have had warrants. They could have had reasons to leave. I mean, cars were illegal. I mean, who knows if they were stolen? Like, who knows, right? But, like, it generally starts out by something happening. Next thing you know, it causes an uprise. And next thing you know, you don't have one cop car. You have 7.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, it would kind of be one of those things. If you felt like something was getting weird, it was good just to low-key get in your car, back it up very quietly, try to move yourself to the other side of the parking lot, or just leave before anything got hot, right? And that would happen, and then people would be like, yo, where you at? Bleep, bleep. Next thing you know, there'd be 200 cars in a different parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's not that there weren't any, you know, people that really, you know, caused a lot of uprising, but it's far from what these takeovers are. And I'm honestly, like, I can't throw enough shade at these takeover things, and I hope that they there recently was I saw it on Facebook, so I mean, I don't know if I would say it's 100% accurate, but there recently was something that I saw where there was an FD competitor, or I don't know no, that's not right. It might not be, but it was a drift competitor. And that drift competitor, I guess, after an event or left an event, you know, who knows, Pro-Am, went to one of these takeover things. Something happened. They were whatever. But the point of the matter is that it's just a bad look, and I think you know, from a community aspect, you know, these people that are doing these takeovers, I think, are damaging car culture. And sometimes, like, when I'm driving, you know, because, like, look, unfortunately, stereotypically, the cars that we drive are the ones that law enforcement seem to hone in on, thinking that we're all
bad actors.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the only thing that seems to save me a lot of times when I'm driving one of those cars, one of my cars or whatever, is I think a lot of times they see the age, and unless I'm doing something actively, they just kind of cruise next to me, like, oh no, this is not the guy, and they pull off, right?
100% agree.
But it's damaging. It stereotypes a lot of these cars that we have. Like right now, like, I mean, in my head, there are 2 cars that when you say takeover, I think about. Let me see if you have the matching cars.
Yeah, I have them. Oh, you want me to say it? 350Z and G37?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant in this room.
I mean, I think when I think takeover, and I'm not saying this is right. When I think takeover, the first car I think of is Charger. And the second car I think of is Q50.
See, the problem is I think I'm partial because I have the G, but I always thought that the G35 and G37 were more of that street takeover car. And I get it because I get profiled for my car all the time.
But I don't really see them all that much. Like, I mean, I feel like every time I see any one of those street takeover videos, it's always a Charger plowing into some dude that's standing on the end of the circle.
Well, if it's a Mustang, then it's at least on a straight line, and then they just crash into the crowd on the side. But you know,
right? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's crazy because, like, for these car meets were so much, right? It was the social media because we didn't have that. That was where we went up to meet people. It was the weekly update on what did you do to your car in between. It was the weekly update of the problems you were going through your car. People would help out with things.
Oh yeah. it was a good place to exchange knowledge in general. Like the conversations that you had and the knowledge that you gained from talking, you know, as I said, I was a little bit behind your group, so we learned a lot. Like even when I talk to you and Matt now, there's stuff that I didn't know about that I've now come to learn, and it's crazy that knowledge was even passed down then, you know. And that's something that you can, you know, we've talked about in the past, like forums and things like that, but the word of mouth knowledge, the working together, or like, oh, I had this car before, this little problem, this is what you're experiencing, let me come over and show you what you got to do. That can't be replaced.
Yeah. And like, you know, I mean, like it's even things like that. Like I remember being like, you know, in the earlier days of tuning when like AEM had just come out with a plug and play, you know, standalone engine management system, right? So now a couple of us had started, you know, that had cars that were, for us, fast. Maybe not by today's standards. But we had gone standalone at that point. And when I think back, when we had gotten V1 and I tried to convert the car over to speed density, that was a project, right? You had to get the car kind of dialed in first, and then you could switch over to speed density. It wasn't like you didn't just start.
You didn't just start doing speed density tables.
At least not on the DSM. So, but I remember there you know, even in that there were some, we called them the OGs, right? The first of the club, and those guys were generally the faster ones, right? And when I say faster one, I'm not talking about shoot. Most of those guys were the ones that, like, you know, I remember like on the front page of New York City DSM, the first homepage was the top 10 fastest verified times, quarter mile times.
Yeah.
So it just showed you the amount of, that was your pecking order.
Do you remember the website that was like everyone, it had like the fastest recorded time records? Well, do you remember what I'm talking about? There was a website that used to have it would have the car, it would have whoever had the fastest record, and then it would have like, you know, different like
well, for any brand or all brands?
It was a whole bunch of different brands. So it was like you could just look up most of the cars that you could think of. It was, I can't remember the name of it. Maybe hopefully somebody online can remember it, but it was like you could go in and be like, "Oh, the fastest, you know, Civic in the country is currently sat at whatever speed, you know, whatever time," and so on and so forth.
Right.
It was cool.
I don't remember that. There was a lot of different sites like that, but I think at that point I was DSM Evo.
So it was just like exclusive in that wheelhouse.
So it probably was more focused on those times, but yeah, like I remember like those OGs that were the fastest ones, like when they would show up, that would be times where it was like cool to go ask them questions. You know, like, what's up with this? Well, why is this going like this? Oh, it's because of this. You know, like, and so there was a lot of learning that happened at those things. I don't know if it was all whatever. I mean, there was plenty of times where we were just sitting on the hood eating burgers, and you know, we played around. You know, we joked around plenty, and you know, I'm not saying nothing stupid ever happened, right? But like, you know, it was so much more. We were so concerned just about making sure that we had a place to go, right? You know, and that place to go, we were protective of it because we didn't want to lose that place.
So this is one thing I got to ask. You guys always cleaned up after yourselves too. Mentioning burgers, because what was really disconcerting lately is that I've been seeing like places where they'd go to a car meet and they'd all leave and there'd
throw stuff on the ground,
throw the stuff on the ground and not clean up, and like it takes 2 seconds to pick it up. Like if you want to come back to that spot next time, I guarantee you every business in that shopping center is immediately going to remember that you guys destroyed the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, look,
glass bottles, things like that.
And here's the thing, I don't even, and this is a pet peeve though. This is a pet peeve of mine, so maybe I'm not the perfect person for this, but I have a thing about littering in period. Me
too. Yeah, no.
So
no,
like,
100%.
Like if you're going to be that mutt that's going to throw your stuff on the ground, rather than hold it in your car and go to a garbage can, or walk over to the garbage can that's probably somewhere in the next 25 feet of you. Like, I just don't understand that. Because to me,
100% agree.
That's disrespectful all the way around. Like, Think about that for a second. Like, and this is the part I think that really gets me. Like, even if it's just, let's say I'm just at Lowe's, somebody else got to go clean up your mess.
Yeah.
For what? Like, pick up your stuff. So like, look, I don't know that I wouldn't chalk it up to this conscious effort to be respectful. I wouldn't chalk it up to this conscious effort to make sure we left the place clean. Like, it's not the same as when you rent a hall and you got to clean everything up.
No. But I feel like it was just we were more responsible. Is what I was getting at. But I do
think that we were concerned with making sure that we didn't give ourselves a bad image.
There you go.
Because if we gave ourselves a bad image, there was no doubt that at some point they were going to get us taken out of that area.
Yeah, they would hire a security guard, put him in the parking lot, and the minute that anyone showed up, they'd run you out. And it would be that simple.
I will say too, like, I mean, and probably obviously rules of engagement as far as insurance goes probably have changed quite a bit. When we used to have a lot of these meets that we would have every week, there was a fair amount of times I remember us going to speak to the store manager or something like that, and we were having it after hours, right? It was when they were closed already, but we would just say, hey, look, this is what we do. We're just going to be parked here. Nothing will happen. We're not going to, nothing, whatever. And we would ask for permission, and a lot of times we would get that permission. Now, I don't think that would happen as much today, unless it was a privately owned business, because I just think there's insurance liabilities. You're on that area, and when you're in their area, I can easily see that being there. But I do remember that there was a couple businesses that we had used, their parking lot and different things at, and they were open when we were there, and they really actually enjoyed it because it was a slow time of night for them. And
I was actually going to bring that up because that was my experience. That
we spent money. There was this one place that we went to, and there was a pizza place in that same parking lot, and we didn't ask them or anything. It wasn't like they weren't the only business there, but I remember those dudes were like we would go in there so much that they would know us by name. Yep. And when we would get in there, they would always give us deals on stuff because it was like they knew that we would go in there. And like let's say you showed up at 7:00 at night, right? If it was a Saturday night or whatever, and you were going to be there till 11 because we were just hanging out, and they knew that you weren't going to come in one time, you might come in 3 times, right? You go in, get a drink, you come back out. Yep. You go in, you grab a slice of pizza
grab a slice and a drink,
go out, and then afterward, you end up in there. I mean, it was just things like that.
Can I get the Zeppelis, please?
100%. I mean, and I think that was there was that shared patronage, right? So I don't know. I think, what's causing all this stuff. I just think that there's a general lack of respect that I feel has become an entitlement. But I don't know that I think that that's just a car thing. I kind of feel that that's a little generational.
So that was kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on, was that we had a generational gap that I feel like occurred between my age group and the modern culture, whether it be quote unquote car culture, because I really don't like saying that, but the takeover culture, because the one good
takeover
thing
culture is not
separate
car
from car culture. But even within the car culture itself, there has been a disconnect in modern times, and I don't know if it's because not as many people were into cars, so it got harder to find those groups, or something changed. Because every Friday night, I remember, if it was nice out, until it was too cold to be outside, we were at a car meet. There was nothing else that we were doing that from the time we got our license. But then you look now, and how many kids didn't get their licenses? How many?
Well, but again, that's a society thing.
I get that, but I'm saying the pool's getting smaller, and the exchange of knowledge and the virtues of the culture aren't getting passed on because you're not getting that knowledge to where it needs to be.
Yeah, but it's I think that there's circumstances. I don't know that I think it's this lack of consciousness. I think is the circle getting smaller? Sure, but you could also make the argument if the circle really was getting smaller, that it should be getting a higher quality circle. Because the people now in the circle, if it's circle smaller, they want to be there the most. What I will say though is I think one of the largest things themselves has to do with the cars. these cars are not what we had. I look, and here's the thing. You know that I'm still pretty well up to date on even modern cars. I can tune them. I have a lot of electronic stuff for different platforms. Like, and you're the same way, right? But these cars are not the same thing as, let's say, the more primitive ECUs that we had without having all the modules and gadgets and electronics and bells and whistles. I mean, it just doesn't. We just didn't. Those cars didn't have that.
No, and it took more to get you. You kind of got a passion to get the car up to the level of what these cars are performing at. You have to put in work, and that made you appreciate the cars and respect. I feel like I do, because think about it. If you can go swipe a card now and go get a 550, 600 horsepower car off the showroom floor and go literally do whatever you want with it. It doesn't matter to you. It's not important. If you took a car that had 200 horsepower and you put sweat equity into it and time and money and energy to build it into something, you're going to respect that automobile so much more that you're not going to go take unnecessary risk. You're not going to be as reckless.
So my take on that is that I don't know that I agree 100%. I'll explain though. Like, what I feel that has more to do with upbringing, with character, with values. And what I mean by that is, listen, there are cars that are way faster than we ever had before, from production cars, but they still cost a lot of money. And when you go to swipe that money, some people have that money, and that was no difference back then. True. From the kids that rolled up with Supras, right, when they were a grip of money. Yep. Or NSXs or stuff like that.
Understandable.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I have friends that had money and they had those cars, and it still meant a tremendous amount to them when they got those cars because they loved the car.
Okay.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that whether you were taking a car that was 400 horsepower and you were trying to make it do 500 horsepower, or you were trying to take a car that was 200 horsepower and trying to make 225, because some of those cars, it took a lot to make 25 horsepower.
True.
That I just think it's about, there was a big difference between the people that really worked on their cars and they wanted to make nice cars, and people that paid other people to build their cars. And I'm not throwing shade at people that pay other people to build their cars. That's a large part of the car culture, and there's nothing wrong with it. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that within the groups that I remember, 90, maybe 80% of them did a tremendous amount of this stuff themselves with help from other people. Those groups, those guys that we, and girls, there was a few, that were so present and so into these cars, they would help you for nothing. Yeah. So if you weren't mechanically inclined, you usually had a buddy or these groups of people, and there was plenty of nights that they would show up with parts, and we would spend the next couple hours all together just putting them in, hanging out, laughing, whatever it's going to be.
No, there was nights at my buddy's shop that we were just sitting there wrenching together, hanging out. Two of us knew how to work on cars, four of us didn't know how. Four of them didn't, and we just sit there and wrench and hang out and chill. Like that was it.
Can I tell you my favorite part? As long as we're reminiscing so much and we turn this into a reminiscent part, I think the part that I miss this the most. I absolutely, when I tell you I miss this the most, like I miss this the most. When I was younger and we were working on cars, when I was in my, my early 20s or, whatever it was, and we were, let's say somebody had to do a head gasket or swap a head, or they were going to pull an engine, or they were going to change the turbo, or they were going to put cams in, or anything like that. Yeah. And they said, oh, I'm going to do this. You'd have the one person who's like, oh, I'll come by and give you a hand. Every single time, let's say it was a Saturday or Sunday, usually was, because by that time we were working,
Oh, yeah.
But every single time, that one person would turn into 8 or 10.
Yep.
And they'd come and you'd have all the cars parked all over the street, but they'd get out, you'd be hanging out in your driveway. Some people would be helping, other people would be running out to get pizza. They'd come back, there'd be pizza. We'd have barbecues. Like, and this happened all the time, and it was so impromptu, and it was so nice to know that, like, what was your Saturday? Your Saturday was hanging out with your friends, working on cars. You know, some of them were drinking beer. We were eating pizza. We were just hanging out, doing our thing. No drama, no issues, a lot of fun, and it was something that you really looked forward to, and I missed that.
It reminds me of the scene, you know, and it's the great example of the scenes at the end of like the Fast and Furious movies where they're all sitting down having. It's the same. Yeah. It is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
As much as you don't want to say it's the same thing, but it was literally the dramatization of what you just described.
Sure, but I mean, I don't know that we were formally sitting down like as a family eating dinner. We were all sitting. You know, we were sitting on boxes in the driveway while people were.
Well, you know, they had a nice spread there. We were working with what we had, but I get what you're saying. Like, that was what was good. It was that friend group that would just congregate. Like, you knew your buddy was working on something, and you're like, hey, let's all just go chill with them.
And he's working on something. And next thing you know, there's 2 or 3 other people working on their stuff. One's in the street, one's over here. You got a couple guys. They're like, oh, you just do that, do that.
Yep.
I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss having that people just rolling through because you were going to be outside doing some stuff in your car. And I think that probably is the part that that if I wish I could bring back, I'd bring that back.
No, I mean, I fully agree with you. I think some of my better memories of like working on cars were in those situations. I mean, I have plenty of nightmares of working on cars by myself, but definitely when you're in there with somebody and you're just having a good time, it really changes the whole dynamic. Even if you're like cursing your name because your hand is stuck behind the firewall, it doesn't matter. You know, you're still there with your friends, and it made a big difference.
And I like building things, so I don't think that's why I've always been so attached to actually the build part of the car. But I do think that it definitely helps to make working on cars a more memorable thing for me. Like even like now, like my like if you ask me what I want to do in a weekend, it's usually to go work on something on one of my cars. Like that's what I want to do, and I usually do. And sometimes it's a big project, and other times it's a tinker project, right? And it's just, you know, it could be anything, but it's just doing these things. And I usually always make sure that I keep, like, so I don't know if you do this, I buy a tremendous amount of car parts for different projects and stuff like that in advance, and I stack them. And I know that
my whole garage right now is stacked with all the parts for the transmission swap. That's not happening today. So I'm a prime example of that. I just have random stuff piled up. I have, for both cars, just shelves full of parts that have to go in.
So I like to have that stuff on hand, because if I get to a point where I have an open time period that would allow me to do the project, like, I'll do it.
Yeah. No,
and I like to have his stuff on deck. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you know, it's like it's like almost like a Christmas shopping that happens all year round so that when Christmas hits, but like
the best thing since we're showing our age, have you gotten to the point where you've forgotten that you've ordered something for the car and went to order it again and realized, luckily, right before or even after you ordered it, that you already got it? Because I did that to myself, where I forgot that I had already gotten a thermostat. Luckily, I have multiple VQ.
Oh, thermostat's not bad.
But it's one of those things, like, you're sitting there, like, you're going through just ordering stuff, and you're like, oh, I got to put this in the car, this in the car. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, I already have 2 of these sitting on the shelf or whatever. It
happens to me. It happens to me, and I'm you know, I get it with the thermostat, but like, happens to me a lot with maintenance stuff.
Okay.
I'm a glutton for. When I order one, I usually order 2 or 3.
Okay.
So like if I order an oil filter, I order 3 or 4, right? If I order like I just got like even for the VR4, like I brought in a couple oil pan gaskets. I brought in, you know, some extra throttle body gaskets, a couple plenum gaskets, because I want to do spark plugs again, and I want to change to different wires.
Okay.
And so on that car, you got to take the plenum off.
Yep.
To be able to get to the other bank. So I ordered a couple plenum gaskets. I ordered some valve cover gasket sets, just in case if I get it apart, you know, that would chronically happen. You see a little valve cover leak. I want to just clean it up.
Yep.
So like that's where I get usually stuck, because I'll be like, you know what, I don't have any, and then I'll be like, oh crap, I already had 2 sets of this, but there's small item things. I mean, but I don't know.
Thermostat just stood out because that happened to me recently. But yeah, no, there's been times where I've ordered full on a part that I already had. I mean, it does happen. I mean, I was just wondering because it's one of those funny things, and that was what was also cool about the buddies showing up was, oh wait, I think I have something that might actually work for that car. Or they, a lot of times you had friends that were like, hey, I'm not using these parts anymore. Is this something that you want? And there was like an exchange there also where you're like, you know what, I never thought to do this, but let's see if it will work. That type of thing, which I also missed, because there was some really cool experimentation that took place. That you weren't finding, like, once again, like now there's the forums and websites and things like that, but you were doing things that not everyone was doing because you had different experiences. Now it's a lot of the same. So that's where I was kind of going with that. I wanted to see where, it was a different culture. It was a different time.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, as we get out of here, let's see, for the people here watching
that are still.
What do you think? Yeah, right. What do you think about this whole idea that the car community needs to be more respectful, to the point where we can kind of start to help clear our name? I don't know if anything will ever clear our name, but the takeover thing, are you into it? Are you not into it? I usually don't like bashing people no matter what their preference is, but the takeover thing to me really has soured me tremendously.
I just don't explain the infatuation. I don't understand the infatuation.
Even if there's an infatuation, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I just don't think it should be like I think if you're into cars and whatever, it's really difficult for you to advocate that is the same. I don't think it's the same.
It's not the same.
But anyhow, with that said, let us know what you think about the whole cultural things. What were your meets like? What kind of things do you look forward to? Do you still have those cool barbecues and stuff in your driveway?
Yeah.
If you do, can I come hang out?
Yeah, that.
All right.
All right, guys.
That's it. So
Have
take care of yourself. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.